Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I have some very exciting content to share with you guys over the next 2 days, and this is going to be the first part of it. So basically, Hisui Cup came out yesterday, and on my first day playing in Hisui Cup, I climbed 200 points and made it 2 leaderboards. So this first team that I'm going to show you guys isn't the team that got me all the way there, it got me halfway there. But I wanted to share this first team with you guys because it is very special to my heart. A couple years ago when we had Hisui Cup in rotation, this team got me to Legend, and I wanted to see if it would work today. So I went back through my Instagram posts because that's where I started posting all of my Pokemon Go content. First, it was always on Instagram. It never really got popular, but whatever. And I went and I looked for what the team was because I remember I hit Legend in Hisui Cup before. So the post says, made it to Legend this season playing Hisui Cup. I used Gastrodon, Lucario, and Polion. Okay, I kind of wish I elaborated a little bit more on that, but from what I remember, I used Lucario with Power Up Punch and Shadow Ball on the safe swap, and if it drew out a Drifblim, let's say, I would build up to the Shadow Ball and then I would bait with the Power Up Punch. So that much I remember. You can see I posted this in August 3rd of 2022, so that was like a year and a half ago. And I want to see if this team still works today. So I got to use it today and I still went positive with it. Pretty decent team, although I should say Toxicroak now is a lot stronger, so I would recommend probably replacing the Lucario with Toxicroak, especially since the backline is going to be extremely weak to Toxicroak. Also, now that Toxicroak has access to Shadow Ball, the Toxicroak will be able to accomplish what I used to use Lucario for, which is bait out the Ghost type and then try to get shields from them. So in this video, we do end up using both teams. We use Gastrodon and Polion and Lucario, and we also try to replace the Lucario with the Toxicroak. So we are going to try both variations, and you guys can see how those perform. Now, the team that got me to leaderboards, I'm just going to tell you guys right now in case you want to use it because I'm not going to be able to edit that video immediately. The team that got me to leaderboards is Frostlass, Lucario, and Toxicroak. So Frostlass Double Fighters, very strong team, highly recommend it. If you guys want to use it, go ahead and use it. I am going to make that video tomorrow and post it. And really quickly, before we get into the battles, the team is extremely weak to Cresselia, especially once I replace the Lucario with the Toxicroak. And then I remember why I had the Lucario in place of Toxicroak. It was because Lucario dealt with Cress a little bit better. So that's enough rambling from me. Let's get into these battles. I have a really fun journey to show you guys. Up first, we are going to be faced with a Hisui Electrode. Now, you might be thinking this is a terrible lead for us, but I am going to go ahead and double shield my Gastrodon. Gastrodon can win this. I'm going to go for these body slams, which, by the way, Gastrodon is going to be able to reach a lot faster now because Mud Slap was buffed this season. So, Gastrodon's a lot stronger now and a lot more viable in these limited cups. I'm going to be able to spam out these body slams, and my opponent is going to double shield their Hisui Electrode. Of course, they took both shields from us, but I was able to reach another body slam to KO the Hisui Electrode before they could reach another energy ball. Now, I do manage to catch the Hydro Cannon on my own Empoleon, and I draw out the Toxicroak. This is really good. Now this Toxicroak is not going to see my Lucario. I was able to land a body slam on the Toxicroak, put it really low, and we did sneak a Mud Slap in. Gastrodon lived their Mud Bomb by 1 HP, so I was able to KO the Toxicroak and then align my Lucario to their Empoleon, counter them down, and take that win. Now, just for the sake of testing things out, I do go ahead and I replace the Lucario with the Toxicroak for the next few games. Don't worry, I am going to come back to this team in the next set because this video is about trying out the team that I used 2 years ago. However, I really wanted to test out Toxicroak on this team. So moving on to the next game, we are going to see an amazing lead of Bastiodon. My opponent is going to safe swap into a Drifblim, and I am going to bring in Empoleon. Empoleon is my best answer to Drifblim. I am going to call that they are going to go Icy Wind on the first move. We no-shield that, really good call on my end because I am able to save my shields. They go for another Icy Wind, and I call that as well. I am not going to get baited. So we're able to take the Drifblim out, and we're able to take one of their shields. And my opponent has a Gastrodon in the back. I'm going to bring my own Gastrodon against this because I don't want my Toxicroak to see it. And my opponent manages to catch a Body Slam on their Bastiodon, but that's okay. I'm going to bring my Toxicroak in and completely farm this thing down, have so much energy for their Gastrodon. I go for a Mud Bomb first, we take their final shield, and then I go for that Shadow Ball. This should come really close to KOing. It KOs the Gastrodon. We're able to take that win. I didn't fall for a single bait in that game. Moving on to the next match, we are going to see an Abomasnow lead. Terrible lead for us. I am going to swap into my Empoleon. For Abomasnow leads, I like to swap into Empoleon because I am going to be resisting the Powder Snows and the Weather Balls. However, my opponent goes ahead and catches the Drill Peck on their own Empoleon. I really should have waited a turn. And the game lags here. I don't CMP tie on the Hydro Cannon with my opponent, and it also doesn't let me sneak a Waterfall in. This should have been a simultaneous KO, and then I might have had a chance to align the Toxicroak to the Abomasnow. However, my opponent has a Gallade in the back, and either way, both of my final two Pokemon are going to be weak to Gallade. So even if the game didn't lag, I still would have lost that. But moving on to the next match, we are going to see the big core breaker for the team. It is going to be Cresselia, and here I'm like, uh-oh, what do I do against this thing? The entire team is weak to it. I'm going to go ahead and shield the Grass Knot. I'm going to weaken it with a Body Slam, and then I am going to swap into my Empoleon and hope that it can do something. But my opponent is going to bring in a Drapion against Empoleon, so at least I'm going to be able to get the shields out of them. Now my opponent is running Bite as a fast move, and it's doing a lot of damage to Empoleon, but usually when they run Bite, they go for Fell Stinger. And I was right, they had Fell Stinger, I survived that, and I was able to reach another Hydro Cannon and take both of my opponent's shields. Now I should be able to land a Shadow Ball on the Cresselia. I'm going to go ahead and shield whatever this is. It is Grass Knot. However, my opponent catches the Shadow Ball on their Basti, but I'm okay with this. I'm just going to build up to another Shadow Ball and then swap into my Gastrodon. And my opponent is going to go for whatever move here. It is a Stone Edge. Both moves are resisted. My opponent realizes I have a Shadow Ball stored on my Toxicroak. They can't win that, so they go ahead and back out. GG's to our opponent. Moving on to the next match, we are going to see a very nice lead of Lucario, and my opponent is immediately going to swap into a Gallade. Now, the back two Pokemon I have aren't going to be great against this thing, so I decide to stay in with Gastrodon. The Mud Slaps are going to be doing quite a bit of damage, and I am also going to be able to outpace to 2 Body Slams before my opponent can reach a second Leaf Blade. So I was able to take them out with the second Body Slam. My opponent then brings in Empoleon. This is fine. I'm going to bring my own Empoleon against theirs because I know that I can handle their Lucario with my Toxicroak. Now this is only a Blaze Kick. However, it turns out they are running Power Up Punch. I thought they might be running Blaze Kick. They did 6. But Power Up Punch is resisted. We let that go. We still had a shield, and my Toxicroak was absolutely going to destroy their Empoleon. So GG's to our opponent. And that gives us a 4-1 in this first set that I tried with this team. I am, however, going to go back to the Lucario now because I want to stay true to the team that I used a few seasons ago. So now we're going to play an entire set with Lucario. On to the first game of the set, we are going to see a Gastrodon lead. Now I have to stay in with my Gastrodon, and also I have to hope that I win CMP. I go immediately for the Body Slam, however my opponent builds up to an Earth Power, but I decide to call the bait. They go for a Body Slam. We let that go, and then I let the second one go, and I live with 1 HP, so I'm able to get the next one off. However, my opponent decides to shield it and takes lead. So I bring Lucario in, and I go for a full farm down, and my opponent brings in a Drapion. And if this is their best answer to Lucario from what they have left, then that means they are going to be very weak to Lucario in the back. But they have a Shadow Abomasnow, and it is running Razor Leaf, so when I swap into Empoleon, They bring it in and it absolutely melts my Empoleon. If it was running Powder Snow, I would have been able to take this win. I have to bring Lucario in and go immediately for the Blaze Kick because Lucario is very squishy. Even though the Razor Leafs are resisted, it does so much damage. So I immediately go for that Blaze Kick. Lucario isn't tanky enough to live the bites from the Drapion, and I take the loss there. Now moving on to the next game, we are going to see a Bibarel on the lead. Now because I am running an ABB team, I go ahead and I catch the Surf on Empoleon. Surf is going to be resisted, and I draw out a Hisui Electrode. Not what I wanted to draw out. I was hoping to draw out a Toxicroak, but it is going to be Hisui Electrode. They're going to be resisting everything from Empoleon. I am able to get it pretty low though with the Drill Peck, and then I go for a Body Slam on the Gastrodon immediately to take the Hisui Electrode out. At least it's out of the way. I go for a Body Slam on the Bibarel, and then I bring Lucario in, and I'm able to counter it down before my opponent reacts. They probably were weak in the back to Lucario. I'm surprised. I was expecting an answer to fighters in the back. However, my opponent top lefts, and we're not going to be able to see what they had. Now moving on to the next game, we are going to see a Licky on the lead. Very interesting lead. I'm going to go for these Body Slams against this Licky, and they go ahead and they shield the first one. Very interesting choice. I think Licky is decently bulky. I let their Body Slam go, however. It does quite a bit of damage to Gastrodon, but not enough to take us out. Again, ABB line, I'm gonna have to draw out what the steel types are weak to in the back. I draw out a Gastrodon, and we managed to take their final shield. They shield the Hydro Cannon, and now I'm gonna bring my Gastrodon in against theirs. They went straight for the Earth Power, however, and I was able to live it with 1 HP and then go for a Body Slam, and my opponent has a Frostlass in the back. They have no shields left, so I'm going to be able to farm up as much as I can before my opponent reaches another Avalanche. Go for a Shadow Ball, take the Frostlass out. I wasn't sure if Blaze Kick was enough to take it out. I think it would have been enough. And then I go for a Blaze Kick on the Licky, and I should be able to counter it down here, and one counter will take their Gastrodon out. GG's to our opponent, we're able to take that win. Now moving on to the next match, we are going to see a Drapion on the lead, and the entire team deals pretty well with Drapion, so Drapion isn't an issue. My opponent immediately swaps into another Razor Leaf Abomasnow. I immediately bring in my Lucario, and I go for the Blaze Kick in case my opponent is able to reach a Weather Ball, and the Razor Leafs were chunking anyways, so I just wanted to get it out of the way. They bring a Gastrodon in instead of bringing their Drapion back in. Very understandable. Drapion is not going to be doing a lot of damage to Lucario and is going to take a lot of damage from Lucario in return. So they are able to farm us down with their Gastrodon. They bring their Drapion back in. I go for a Body Slam and I take a shield from them. And then I bring Empoleon in. I'm going to go for a Hydro Cannon, expecting my opponent to use their second shield. And then my opponent attempts to fully farm down my Empoleon so that they have a move for Gastrodon. However, they see that they're not able to, so they have to throw that Aqua Tail, and then Gastrodon is going to be able to Mud Slap the Drapion down, and then Mud Slap their Gastrodon down. So we're able to take that win. GG's to our opponent. Now moving on to the next match, we're going to see a terrible lead of Drifblim. I bring in my Empoleon, and then my opponent is going to bring Toxicroak in. Now I messed up here. The way I ran this team before is I used Lucario as my safe swap, and usually my opponent would be tempted to stay in with Drifblim, and I can take shields from them. However, they have that Toxicroak in the back. Most likely I would have drawn the Toxicroak out with Lucario, and then maybe I would have been able to threaten with a Blaze Kick and possibly take a shield from them. Also, I have the Water Pulse on the Gastrodon for the Drifblim. However, I'm only able to reach one, and it doesn't do that much damage. Water Pulse is not a great move, and my opponent has a Lucario in the back. So they were running double fighters. Drifblim double fighters, this team is not going to win against, no matter what you do. That is just hard counter. But we were still able to go positive for another set with this team. I know it's just a 3-2, but it's still positive. And then after this, I go ahead and I change my team to Frostlass Double Fighters, and that team performs so well for me. That video is coming tomorrow. It gets me to leaderboards. You guys will see, those games are so good. But I was just happy today that I got to use this team from the past and make it work. Also, I'm glad that they didn't change the Hisui Cup meta, because that means the old teams that we used to use in Hisui Cup still work. And I know a lot of people were disappointed about that because Niantic had said some other Pokemon were going to be allowed in Hisui Cup this time around. And a lot of people made videos and deep dives about it. Even my friend, his channel is called GBL PvP 101 if you want to check it out. He made a deep dive, spent a lot of time on it, and then Niantic last minute, they changed their blog post and say that the Hisui Cup meta is basically going to be the same as what it was before. Other Pokemon are not going to be allowed, so a lot of the videos that people made on the Hisui Cup became redundant. But honestly, I like the Hisui Cup just the way it is. If they had allowed the other Pokemon that they said they were going to allow in the cup, it would have been really boring because there were Pokemon like Umbreon and Whiscash, and come on, we want to be able to use the spicier Pokemon that you don't get to see all the time. And I am just happy that the Hisui Cup was kept the same. This is one of my favorite metas. I really love this cup, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. But that brings us to the end of our video. If you guys like my videos, please consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like, it helps me out so much. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!